Hey all, and welcome back to Ascendancy Gaming and a new video on the channel going over the Frostblades Raider build I've decided to pump all of my money into. Now, this is not a build guide because I've put an absolute ton into this and I just think the skill is not amazing, the Ascendancy probably isn't the best for it. I just wanted a build that was fun for me, and I remember a few leagues ago I absolutely loved playing this build, and I was building like literally hundreds of divines up from farming hour after hour and had nothing to spend it on, and the last thing I wanted to do was go and this money will go to standard where I never use it. So I thought even if items cost me 20-25 divines for one item, I was just going to plow some money into the build. What I was looking to get out of it was decent enough all-round defenses with crit immunity so that I can go and do some wisp farming. I didn't want to be relying on totems for 70% of my damage, and I think a lot of Frostblades builds that you look at that might be 100 million DPS, 70% of that DPS is probably from having an Vile Ancestral Warchief and your Ancestral Protector down. And although I obviously will still put them down for bosses for boost, I didn't want loads of my damage to come from that and then situational things like focus and various things. I wanted to get really reliable, consistent damage. I wasn't looking to get insane damage, like 15 million DPS without totems was kind of what I was looking to get, and I've got roughly there. I wanted to be very, very quick through the maps and be able to one-shot most packs. I wanted phasing, spell suppression, ailment immunity, fortify, endurance charges, stun resistant, and corrupted blood immune. There's a couple of bits I still need to finish off on the build, but I'm pretty much there. I also wanted to be as close to crit cap as possible. I think I'm at 97%. And obviously good leech and recovery, but with a claw build with leech and instant leech, you automatically get that anyway. Like I said, I could get loads more DPS on the POE if I just padded it out with totem damage, but I'm not going to do uber bosses, and this build already melts invitations and normal bosses, so I don't need more damage. I'd rather put it into speed and utility. I do think if I was going to build it from scratch, and I wanted to use my brain a bit more, I'd probably go Savior and Paradoxica. I think that can make an awesome build, but the build already struggles with life, and I do like a shield to get lots of stuff into the build, like life, ailment immunity, suppression, evasion, things like that. But dual wielding with Paradoxica and Savior, I think it'd be super fun and easily double the DPS, but you might be a little bit more squishy. Like I said, this isn't a build I recommend you copy, as it is about 20 million DPS with totems down, and it costs hundreds of divines. You could get that sort of DPS for, I would think, much, much cheaper. But overall, the build just feels super fun to play, which is why I've put it together. We'll go through the gear in a minute. I just wanted to cover up a couple of things. The reason I'm running Mageblood is really just to get much more speed, much more onslaught, and just make it quicker to get through the maps. I have a really juicy Stygian with tons of damage on it. That with an Abyssal is much more damage than a Mageblood. I just like this because it solves problems like I don't need to run Grace to get enough evasion. I can get super onslaught without taking out onslaught nodes. But I do think a Stygian Vise works just as well. And then I'm also running Awaken Multi-Strike just because I had the currency, so why not? But again, it's not something you really need in the build, and it was 100 divines. I still have currency that I want to spend, but I can't actually find any upgrades further the way I've built it, other than maybe the double corrupt Radakesh's, but the one I want on the market was about 140, and although I don't mind throwing stuff at the build, I don't think they were worth anywhere near that currency. We could also, if we could find some more attributes, maybe get a double corrupted Yoke of Suffering and then corrupt the Whispers of Doom Anoint on it. But they're kind of little things, and I'm happy where the build is at the moment. So we'll go over all the gear, gems, tree in a moment, then we'll just fly through a quick Guardian map. But as you can see, I've still got 179 divines. I've probably got like 80 divines worth of loot to sell from my last farming session. It's just not anything I can find currency to put into. I do have another Ranger, which at the moment is a Deadeye. I may want to get to 500 divines, do what I've done here, but do Lightning Strike on the Raider, just to compare the two. I don't want to respec this one because I really, really like the build. So like I said, there's two things left for me to solve, which is Stun Immune, which I'm going to get from that which was taken. The right one just hasn't been on the market yet. And in Corrupted Blood, I use a couple of very cheap cluster jewels, so I will just buy the market up for those jewels, corrupt them all until I get a Corrupted Blood jewel, and then we're done. In terms of the content that I've done so far, at the moment, I'm just doing destructive play invitation farming. It's very, very profitable. Doesn't need a particularly good build, but this build flies through the maps, kills the conquerors in a couple of seconds, and melts the invitations. So I haven't really thrown it against tough content yet. Simulacrums, I think it would be okay, but because it's a pure cold build, you get all the wrong mods. It can be very, very tricky. If I did want to put it through Simulacrum, I'd probably rejig the character, get a Headhunter on it. It would definitely fit much better. And then I'm not going to throw out Ubers because I think unless you're going to do hundreds of Uber bosses and you've got a specific Uber build, there's no point doing them. I don't really see the point of, well, it can do them if you're not going to do them. It just doesn't need to do that content, and you have to make lots of sacrifices to be able to do that content. So we're just going to do a very quick showcase map, and then we'll go through the gear. So we'll just grab any Conqueror map. We'll do 100. It doesn't really matter what the mods are as long as it's not something that's going to absolutely brick me. That's fine. Like I say, just doing destructive play. Part map is fine. The Atlas tree I'm doing at the moment, just in case anyone's interested, is destructive play with Deli and essences. The idea is you run through the mirror. Because my build is very strong, I don't need to worry about Delirium bosses because they're very easy. Same with the Conquerors under Delirium. And then essences, just on the way, I can pop a couple of essences. I've taken 7th gate in case I want to put essences on the map. If I get like Strand, for example, that's linear, I'll be able to pick up all the essences just to try and eke as much currency as I can out of every map that I do. So we'll go in and we'll do a park map. So we did get a Deli Mirror. So I'll just hang back just to make sure we don't outrun the fog, which we might do anyway because it's pretty quick. I may change the Herald MTX. This one's just a bit too screen cluttery. But as you can see, we're probably too quick that we're not even getting the Delirium mobs to spawn, which is not good because we're just going straight past them. But it doesn't really matter too much. As long as we get to like 5 rewards, I'm fine. Because we're not wandering path, we only need 4 rewards. Kill the boss, we get 5, which is ample. So we'll just go and kill a couple of packs here just to make sure we do get there. Kill the boss, then all the extra bosses. We may as well finish that there because we've got our 5 rewards. Take the loot, and then we'll go in and kill Hunter. So that's kind of the build. This is what I'm doing with the build at the moment. I will chuck it through some much more difficult content. We're going to do some T16 Jungle Valley Wisp farming. This build will handle it no problem whatsoever. With the fact we can't take crit damage, we've got, which we'll go through in a bit, we've got Fortify Endurance charges, Determination, about 83% chance to evade. Elusive, we've got plenty of defensive layers that should survive through most content. So we'll just go through the character and how I've built it, and I'll try and give costs of stuff, but some stuff I crafted. The claw I actually bought for 20 divines, which I think is a bit of a bargain. It has massive accuracy, which means I can save nodes on the tree. It's got big crit chance, decent enough attack speed, big cold damage, big fizz damage, strength and intelligence, which again I needed, and then some Ellie Pen, which is a massive DPS boost for an elemental build. Heat Shiver, we're just running Corrupted Heat Shiver with Reservation Multiplier implicit. I think this was about a divine. It might even have been less. Just running Yoke Suffering, so there is a cheap item on the build. I've allocated Whispers of Doom, which we'll see when we go through the gear. The shield I crafted, it wasn't particularly expensive. I bought a Suppress Fractured Base, and then I just went into Harvest. And then basically spammed any of the 50 elemental ones until I hit 30% ailment avoidance with a resistance. Then I Suffixes Cannot Be Changed and Vow Chaos because I wanted to get the flat fire and cold. And then I just crafted Life and Exalted. So this, probably 3 to 4 divines to craft, nothing too insane. The unique ring was 20 divines because it has curse enemies with elemental weakness on hit. It was the cheapest one I could find. Maybe I got absolutely scammed, but also I wanted really, really high increased cold damage while affected by Herald of Ice, and Herald of Ice has increased buff effect. I made a mistake when buying this ring, and I had implicit set to 3. If I'd have set it to 1, I have no idea. I may have got this ring for like 4 divines. Let's go and have a look. I mean, I don't mind because it's so easy to earn currency, but if we have a look here, and we'll just see what you... Oh, okay, there's none on the market. 100 divines. Okay, so I did all right for 20 divines because it was the only one with elemental weakness on hit. Then I wanted a Frostbite on hit ring. So I just bought one with suffixes that I wanted. So I had Resistance, Intelligence, which I needed, and Frostbite on hit. I think this was a few divines. It wasn't mega bucks. Then I've Suffixes Cannot Be Changed, Veiled Chaos, Unveiled Life, crafted non-challenging skills, and then slammed with an Exalt, and we got mana. The body armor, I think I purchased this. No, I didn't purchase this. The body armor, I bought the 6 link with the Chaos Resistance Fracture. It wasn't actually very much. I think it was like 1 to 2 divines. It was fairly cheap. Then what I've done is basically got my suffixes in order for what I wanted, which is basically just resistances. Then I've used Eldritch currency to try and get some evasion. So just exalting, annulling, exalting, and then I got these after a couple of hits. I wasn't necessarily trying to get something with 3,000 evasion. 2.5 would have been fine. I just hit these ones really early, and then we've crafted Fizz Taken as Ellie. And then for our implicits, I've gone Hatred, Aura Effect, and Increase Effect of Non-Curse Auras. The gloves are a fairly cheap item. These were just a Fractured Suppression base. I've spammed Zeal Essences until I've got Lightning Resistance and some decent prefixes. It was not particularly expensive. Obviously, getting the +2 strike is expensive because Embers are quite a lot of money at the moment. But I'd farmed Exile Cultists God knows how long, so I have plenty of currency to make these. And then I've just gone for Pierce for the other one just to make clear a little bit better, but it is quite insane as it is. And then we have Ralakesh boots with increased maximum life. I don't think these were particularly a lot of money, maybe a couple of divines. What I wanted with these is +1 to maximum endurance charges, but I think Mathil bought a build out 2 days ago with the +1 endurance charge boots, and he said he paid 8 divines for them and they're now 50, so I'm not paying 50 divines for 1 endurance charge. So we just settled as it was, and the increased life gives you extra hit points, as it were, extra EHP. So even if I just got +1 endurance charges, it does make me a little bit more tanky to fizz hits, but I think the life is not too much difference to just 1 extra endurance charge. And then, like I said, we are running Mageblood on it just because why not? There's tons of currency available this league. Why not just do something that you'd never do in any other league and just throw money at a build that maybe doesn't deserve it? For Flask, I've gone for Amethyst because I have very little Chaos Resistance. And then I've gone for increased crit chance during effect on this one. We've gone Granite Flask with increased armor effect because we're running Determination. Gone a Silver Flask just because you get Giga Onslaught with it. And then we've gone Evasion Rating on here to cap that out. Well, not cap that out, but push it up. Quicksilver Flask would increase attack speed. And then just a, Bleeding Divine Life Flask. If we go onto the tree, I have changed this about 50 times. I bought loads of different clusters, jewels, regrets, and this is kind of what I've settled on. So up here, I've gone for a Lethal Pride with as much double damage and Intimidate as I can get. And these seem to be cheaper when they live up here because most people will stick their Lethal Pride here. So we have double damage here. We've got Intimidate here, increased melee damage, damage leeches life, double damage, melee damage, and strength. There is a double damage here as well, but I don't think it's worth the 4 points. But that's kind of just gives me my strength and tons of damage. So the main cluster jewel, I'm going to change this because Blast Freeze I don't think does anything, which is 20% cold damage and spreading freezes, but we obliterate screens anyway, so I really don't think we need this. This is a jewel I had left over from another cold build I was working on that basically never worked. We've got Sadist because we chill, ignite, and shock, so that's 60% increased LE damage. Then out of here, we've got basics of pain and pressure points at medium cluster jewels. And then that which was taken, which at the moment gives me crit chance, crit multi, blind, because I'm not sure I'm 100% accuracy capped, and it gives us evasion. And then a bit of fizz damage if we've dealt a crit recently, and we turn all fizz into cold damage. This is not amazing. What I would want is something without the fizz damage and with cannot be stunned when fortified. There was one available at the time and someone wanted 300 divines for it, so we'll probably maybe rejig charms and jewels to fit that stun avoidance in. In here, I've gone for a Watcher's Eye. This was money. I don't know, like 20 to 30 divines maybe, which is Cold Pen while affected by Hatred and increased attack damage while affected by Precision. We roll down here. We're rocking another cluster jewel. This one with Prismatic Heart and Sadist, which I will probably get exactly the same one for up there because it gives us more damage and resistances. Again, it's Sadist to get the 60% increased LE damage. And then in here, we've slotted Forbidden Flesh for Avatar of the Chase. And then in the medium cluster, we've put Forbidden Flame. This is probably something that is not needed at all for damage. The reason I put it in is my evasion was about 72%. And what Avatar of the Chase gives you is 100% more onslaught effect, but also 10% more chance to evade attacks. And I thought, yes, it's probably not the best use of 2 jewel sockets, but I don't want to die on this build because it kind of slows me down and stuff. So we ended up getting these Forbidden Jewels. There's tons you can get. There's probably ones on Deadeye like increase effective flasks, If you're really rich, you can go and get the Tailwind one from Deadeye. Loads of different options, but I just went with that for now. I think they were combined 22 divines. And the medium coming off of it is to get more ailment effect because my shock on some bosses doesn't hit 50%. So I've got Astonishing Affliction and Eye of the Storm just to get loads of ailment effect and a bit of crit chance. And then we have somewhere else here, we've got an Impossible Escape for Hexmaster to pick up these 2 nodes because they're just massive. It's worth the jewel in my opinion. So we get 6% cold pen and 30% cold damage. 30% cold damage and 50% increased duration of cold ailments, which increases the freeze. Because we're running Heat Shiver, it means the longer we freeze, you're doing more damage in that window. It's especially important now that you can't just put Trinity in your links with Heat Shiver and proc it and get tons more damage. It really actually matters freezing enemies in terms to actually do damage rather than do damage and proc one of your skill gems to do even more damage. And that's one of the reasons I also tried to get as much damage away from totems as I could. We've anointed Whispers of Doom because we have a Curse on Hit Ring, well, 2 Curse on Hit Rings with Ellie Weakness and Frostbite. Normally you would anoint something like Panopticon for single target damage, but I want a build that's going to map for the majority of the time, and this does nothing because I'm not going to stop to put totems down when I'm fighting packs of enemies. The skill tree is in the path of building. No idea if this is the best way to do it. I'll just go through a few notables that are important. So the Dagger Wheel we're taking because it gives elusive effect and we can get an elusive mastery. We're taking a Nightblade mastery in the Claw Wheel. We are taking a Dex accuracy mastery because I'm not capped. And then 50% increased non-damaging ailment effect with critical strikes. Down here we're converting the rest of our damage to cold because Frostblades only convert 60. Then we have 50 max life, and then 15% life if none on body armor and there isn't, and then just instant leech. And that's kind of it. It looks really, really simple, but the amount of different gear and stuff I've tried on this build is, yeah, a ridiculous amount. So this is what I've settled on because I'm really enjoying it. I'm not saying in any way this is a value for money build. I just absolutely love it, and it's something I can definitely see myself playing for a few weeks and just throwing it at loads of different type of content. So we'll look at the charms. These are not particularly expensive. They just cover little bits that I wanted in the build. So we got crit chance while at maximum power charges. And importantly, you take no extra damage from crit strikes while you're elusive, and we're always elusive. So it means if I go into a Wisp map and they've got a ridiculous amount of crit, I don't take any extra damage. We have melee hits Fortify for some defenses and increase effect of non-damaging ailments, again, because my shock sometimes hovers around 40%. And then in this one, I've capped out my spell suppression and got Culling Strike. So they are semi-expensive charms, but none of them were like, oh, this is 20 divines, this is 30. They were all what I would say in this economy, very affordable. And then with the Ascendancy, for a long, long time, I was Rapid Assault, Avatar of the Chase, Where the Poacher, Avatar the Slaughter, and then I satisfied everything else through the gear. But actually, this 20% exposure meant I could drop nodes and a mod on my gloves. Getting the extra suppression obviously means you can drop stuff on the tree. Phasing I didn't have, and I definitely noticed it, so I wanted that back in. And that's why we went for the Forbidden Flesh and Flame, because I do like the extra onslaught effect and the actual more chance to evade. You can't really get it elsewhere unless you're running Grace and you get a Watcher's Eye. But the whole point of this is not to run Grace, to run Determination instead. So let's go through the skill gems, which is where a lot of the money was spent. So we have our Frostblades 2120. These aren't that expensive. They're like normal price for a 2120. Got Awakened Added Cold. Again, not a particularly expensive gem. We have 2120 Nightblade Support, which was 3 divines. We have a 2120 Inspiration. Again, 3 divines. The reason I went for 21 is it lowers my mana cost by 1. And I have about, let me move my head, I have 22 spare mana, so I need my cost to be low, otherwise I'm just going to run out of mana. But I don't, because I've got Awaken Multi-Strike and it hits 4 times with the same mana pool. I never run out of mana. All my other skills are like 3 mana, so I don't really need much mana to actually get the build to function. But getting that inspiration, even though it probably wasn't needed, I thought it's 3 divines, we'll just go and spend the currency. Then we've got Awaken Daily Damage with attacks, which I think at 5 and 20% is about 6.5 divines. And then the big boy, which is Awaken Multi-Strike, which is 100 divines. Not needed, but it is more damage, more attack speed. So I thought, yep, if we're pumping money into it that I've got sitting in my stash, we are going to go and invest. In the helmet, we have an Enlighten, because you actually need Enlighten and the mana reservation efficiency. Before I got these, I was just running a small cluster with like Grace reservation efficiency when I was running Grace. But that's a waste of a dual socket and 2 extra points. This fit the bill nicely. So it's Enlighten level 3, Hatred level 21, 2120 Herald of Ice, which I actually had drop. They are full divines, but I dropped this in a map. And then 21 Determination. In the shield, which has got a Flame Dash, Inspiration linked to it. I probably don't need that anymore. It was to lower the mana cost before I had like all my mana cost gear. And then we got Awakened Added Cold that I'm leveling up. This isn't a gem you need, so I don't think that you do. In the claw, I've got a Molten Shell on left click. Precision, I've had to stop at 15. I could probably go one more, but I don't want to risk it. And then Enlighten seems silly just to a precision, but we actually need it. And in the gloves, I've got Inspiration linked with Void Manip so that I don't do any elemental damage with my Whirling Blades linked to faster attacks. Again, this probably, yeah, it's not needed, but I've put them in because I had to spare dual sockets anyway. Then in the boots, we have our totems. So it's Ancestral War Chief, Multi-Totems, and Ancestral Protector. And then a Portal Gem so I don't have to carry around Portal Scrolls. Now, this is a level 100 character. This was my League Start character. Obviously, if you were putting hundreds of divines into a build, you'd probably pay for some 5-way carries to get yourself to 100, because each point adds probably 2 to 3%, maybe 5% power, which when you're starting to get min-max in, that might be 100 divine items. So you definitely want to be level 100 if you're going to plow tons of currency into a build. And then for Pantheons, it's Solar Lunaris for Fizz damage reduction, movement speed, less LE damage. I need to complete the last 2 actually to make sure we've got even more defenses. And then normally I run Abarath because Burning Ground just annoys me. Even though I'm not running Exile Culters, Burning Ground just seems to hurt a lot. So I run this. When I'm bossing, I'll switch it around. But yeah, miners is whatever you really want. It's personal preference or dependent on the content that you are running. And the playstyle, we're just going to do one more map. The reason I wanted to build it this way is I want the playstyle to be Whirling Blades through the map, press one button, blow up a ton of packs, move on, drop totems, melt boss, get the next map in. So I'm just going to change my Herald effect because I really don't like this one. We will run the Dragon effect one. That's a lie. I love the Herald effect, but it is just too in your face. So we'll just go and do another one of our maps. If I remember what I was doing, we're doing Conquerors. Although I don't even think I've got a full set of them, but we'll drop them at some point. We don't have a full set, so we'll go and do Redeemer. Normally, I'll just run these scoured. Like, there's not really any need when you're running this kind of strategy to out them. It doesn't really make much of a difference. But obviously, for the build you've pumped hundreds of divines in, it shouldn't really matter what mods you put on the map. And then the playstyle literally is Whirling Blades through the map quickly. Press your right click once, blur up a whole screen pretty much, and then move on. So we'll go and just prop the Deli Mirror. Oh, this is also quite in your face as well. In fact, this might even be worse. So this is not an ideal map for showcasing like movement because it's kind of quite enclosed, but so if anything, the build might be slightly too quick for Delirium because you may get ahead of the monsters and ahead of the fog, but so then your Whirling Blades is super quick to get you through the map. And the reason I want Corrupted Blood is because we are moving quick, it's going to be very easy to get tons of Corrupted Blood on us. So it'd be nice just to not have to worry about that. But like I said, we will get it in at some point. I'm lagging. Always good. Good old GGG servers. Oh, we have a Beyond boss. Oh, so we've got 50% shock on the Beyond boss, so that's okay. And that's in Delirium, so that's all right. So then we'll go down. Actually, we're just going to get to 5 layers of rewards, and then when we kill the boss, it will go to 6. Oh, we didn't. We might be all right. We'll have to wait and see. Yeah, we just got it in time. It was close. So there's the extra bosses. I think that's done. Yeah, so we'll drop the portal. Deli ended automatically because it kind of ran out. And we got nothing from it, so it was not worth it at all. So we'll go into Redeemer. And yeah, that's kind of the play style. You just run, hit the button. If there's too many mobs and either the servers or your computer's not quite there, you might get a tiny bit of lag when the screen explodes. But it's a very fun build to play. And to me, there's no funner build than melee with Herald of Ice just blowing everything up. But it is melee, which means it's expensive, which is a shame. You can get it cheaper if you want to really rely on kind of buffs that aren't up all the time. But I wanted a solid build that was going to have all these buffs up all of the time. The POB is in the video description. If there's any insane people that want to spend loads of money on a build that I've probably put together really badly, but it was put together for personal enjoyment and it is definitely an enjoyable build. That's it for this video. Thanks for watching. Take care and see you in the next one.